It was a grey, uncertain morning in Rome on March 12th, 2009, a day that would become etched in the hearts of all who knew the Rossi family. The city awoke under a blanket of rain, the kind that begins as a whisper and grows into a steady, relentless drumbeat on cobblestones and window panes. In a small apartment off Via Merulana, 8-year-old Lara Rossi prepared for school, her mother Giulia bustling around her with the careful attention that comes from both love and routine. Giulia tucked a blue umbrella into Lara's backpack, the same umbrella she'd used all winter, and reminded her, as always, to come straight home after school. Lara, in her favorite red raincoat, hugged her mother tightly, the scent of her mother's perfume mingling with the promise of the day. Her backpack bounced as she hurried down the stairs, the umbrella handle peeking out behind her. But that morning, as Rome stirred to life, as markets opened and buses rumbled along glistening streets, Lara Rossi vanished. She never made it home. The first tremor of worry rippled through Giulia at 4 o'clock that afternoon. Lara's usual arrival time had come and gone, and the apartment felt too quiet, the minutes stretching thin and anxious. Giulia called the school, hoping for some mundane explanation, a forgotten notebook, a delayed class, but Lara had left on time, just as she always did. Calls to neighbors yielded nothing. Even Lara's best friend Sophia hadn't seen her since they waved goodbye at the school gates. At 4:42 p.m., fear overtook hope, and Giulia dialed the police. By early evening, the search was underway. Police officers canvassed the streets near the school, questioning shopkeepers, drivers, and anyone who might have noticed a small girl in a red raincoat. They checked alleyways, bus stops, and playgrounds, their radios crackling with updates. At 8:15 p.m., a breakthrough. Lara's blue umbrella, found lying beside a newspaper stand 3 blocks from her school. The vendor, a kindly man with thick glasses, said he hadn't noticed anything unusual. The umbrella had been there since around noon, untouched and oddly clean despite the rain. That umbrella became the symbol of the search, the one tangible piece of Lara that remained. It was dry, almost as if it had been placed there intentionally, not dropped or forgotten. It was a clue and a torment, a reminder of how close she had been and how quickly she had disappeared. In the days that followed, the city of Rome rallied. More than 300 volunteers joined the search, their faces grim with determination. Flyers bearing Lara's photo, her wide brown eyes, her missing front tooth, her infectious smile, appeared on every wall, every lamppost, every television screen. The city's collective heart ached with Giulia's, each day passing without news deepening the sense of helplessness. Weeks turned into months. Theories abounded, but evidence was scarce. Some witnesses claimed to have seen Lara getting into a car. Others thought she had walked toward the train station. Each lead fizzled out, contradicted by the next. There was no security footage, no fingerprints, no more belongings to be found. Only the blue umbrella and the echoing pain left behind. Giulia's world unraveled. She left her job, unable to focus on anything but the empty chair at her kitchen table. Friends drifted away, unsure how to help or what to say. Holidays came and went, uncelebrated. The weight of grief pressed down on her marriage until it, too, crumbled under the silence and guilt. She kept Lara's room untouched, books neatly arranged, pajamas folded under the pillow, a photo of mother and daughter at the zoo on the nightstand. Each evening, Julia lit a candle in the window, a silent beacon in the darkness, hoping against hope that Lara might find her way home. For 14 years, there was only silence. The world moved on, but for Julia, time stood still. Then, in June 2023, a flicker of hope emerged from the most unexpected place. Julia's niece, Beatrice, was preparing a family slideshow for her parents' wedding anniversary. She spent an afternoon sorting through old photographs, scanning them into her computer. One image, taken during a family trip to Naples in 2017, caught her eye. In the foreground, her cousin Alessio smiled beside a group of street performers, but it was the background that made Beatrice's heart race. A girl, perhaps 16 or 17, stood slightly out of focus. She wore a faded red raincoat and had striking brown eyes. Around her wrist was a thin, colorful bracelet adorned with plastic stars. Beatrice stared at the photo, her pulse quickening. She zoomed in on the bracelet, a memory surfacing. Julia had made those bracelets for Lara's 8th birthday, handing them out to only 5 children. They were never sold in stores. The realization hit her with the force of a tidal wave. She showed the photo to her mother, who went pale with shock. That evening, they hurried to Julia's apartment. When Julia saw the photo, she collapsed into a chair, overcome by a mixture of hope and fear that she had not felt in years. The resemblance was uncanny, but it was the bracelet, the tiny, unmistakable stars that made her believe. The next morning, Julia brought the photo to the police, explaining the significance of the bracelet. At first, investigators were skeptical. The image was blurry. The girl's face turned to the side. But the bracelet was unique, and it was enough to reopen the case. Detectives began tracing the location where the photo had been taken. A bustling street near the port in Naples, frequented by street performers and travelers from all over the world. It was a daunting task, but persistence paid off. A former street performer recognized the girl in the photo. She had called herself Sarah, never revealing a last name, and sang for coins near the pier. She had vanished again in late 2019. When pressed for details, the man recalled one thing above all. She always carried an old blue umbrella, even when the sun was shining. That detail, the blue umbrella, became the thread that investigators followed. They reviewed security footage from ports, train stations, and shelters across southern Italy. Gradually, a pattern emerged. A teenage girl, traveling alone, always with the same umbrella, moving from city to city. Each sighting was a piece of a puzzle that had haunted Rome for years. For Julia, the days were a blur of anxious waiting. Every phone call sent her heart racing. Hope was both a blessing and a torment. After so many years, even a whisper of news was almost too much to bear. Then, in late July 2023, the call she had dreamed of finally came. A social worker in Palermo reported a young woman who had come in seeking help. She had no identification, no clear memories of her past, but she carried a battered blue umbrella and wore a plastic star bracelet. She said her name was Lara, though she wasn't sure why. Julia flew to Palermo that same day. In a small office, she saw her daughter for the first time in 14 years. Lara was older, her hair lighter, her frame thinner, but her eyes were unmistakable. She sat quietly, hands folded the way she had as a child, tears streaming down her face. Their reunion was raw and quiet, filled with trembling and silence rather than words. Lara struggled to remember her past. She recalled the rain, a car, a woman with a strong perfume. Then, nothing for years. Just flashes of color and sound. Boats, music, crowds, shouting. She had been moved often. Never enrolled in school, always told to lie about her name. But through it all, she clung to the blue umbrella, the only constant in her shifting world. Recovery was a slow, gentle process. There were medical tests, therapy sessions, and endless questions. Julia never pushed, simply stayed by her daughter's side, offering love and patience. Gradually, Lara began to trust, to ask questions about her old life, her room, her toys, her best friend. She wanted to know if her mother still had the drawings she made in second grade. Julia did. By December 2023, Lara moved back to Rome. The city had changed, and so had she. But the warmth of home remained. Some memories would never return, lost to the years. But Lara began to create new ones, walking with her mother, laughing at old movies, finding comfort in the ordinary moments they shared. Sometimes she would pause and look at the sky, feeling a strange ache in her heart when she saw the clouds. One rainy afternoon, Lara stood at the window, her blue umbrella by her side. She turned to Julia and whispered, "Let's go out." They walked together. Beneath the umbrella, two souls, reunited by love and hope. In the end, justice was not found in arrests or revenge. Those responsible for Lara's disappearance were never identified. What mattered most was that a mother's love endured, unbroken by time or silence. Against all odds, that love brought Lara home, proving that even in the darkest moments, hope can light the way.